Этой встречи Fyodor Bondarchuk, советский российский актер кино, телевидения, озвучания и дубляжа, режиссер и продюсер кино и телевидения, сценарист, телеведущий. Федор, добро пожаловать в Россию. Здравствуйте.
Добрый вечер, уважаемые друзья, дорогие участники этой сессии. Рад видеть такой полный зал и чувствовать вашу энергию. Спасибо вам большое за эти аплодисменты. Спасибо.
Ну и давайте объявим нашего спикера, который у нас сейчас появится здесь. Вуди Аллен, американский кинорежиссер, актер, комик, сценарист, четырехкратный обладатель премии «Оскар».
Мы посмотрим нашу работу так. Я в первой части обращусь на английском. Я надеюсь, что у вас у всех есть наушники и все эти гаджеты, и вы получите перевод. А потом к вопросам мы перейдем на русский. Итак, мы готовы? Да. Good afternoon, dear friends, dear guests of our session. Welcome to you in Moscow. Welcome in the Moscow Pavilion. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Fyodor Bondarchuk. I'm a film director, film producer, and actor. I was born in the family of Soviet cinematographers. My mother was an actor, my actress, my father was an actor and film director. He was an Oscar winner for War and Peace by Lev Tolstoy in 1969. My first feature was a war drama, and it was a story about last month of the Soviet campaign in Afghanistan. It was a huge hit here in Russia almost 20 years ago. It's a great honor for me to open and to host this session. For me, and I'm sure for millions of viewers in Russia, Woody Allen has never been just a filmmaker. We watched his movies on VHS tapes, passing them from hand to hand, returning them late, rewatching them again and again. We grew up alongside his characters, laughed at his jokes, sometimes not understanding them right away, but always feeling them deeply. We dreamed with the characters of the Purple Rose of Cairo, fell in love with New York and Manhattan, argued with ourselves like the hero in Hannah and her sisters, and recognized our own fears in Midnight in Paris. We dreamed with then came movie theaters, festivals, streaming platforms, and even in this fast-paced digital world, his films stayed with us. They didn't get lost among the blockbusters and algorithms. People keep looking for them in theater listening, festival lineups, and streaming catalogs. His voice, recognizable, ironic, became a part of our cinematic culture. He didn't just make films, he created entire worlds we wanted to return to. Today we have a rare opportunity to speak with Woody Allen. Mr. Allen, thank you for being with us today. For filmmakers and audience in Moscow and far beyond, your voice in cinema has always been something unique, witty, and deeply human. We're truly honored to welcome you here, even if virtually.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I've been to Moscow. I've been to St. Petersburg. I've someone who's always enjoyed Russian cinema. I think I had the pleasure of meeting Sergei Bondarchuk some years ago in New York. I saw the Russian War and Peace, which was 7 or 8 hours long. I saw it in one day, and it was a great experience for me. And so I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
So now it's in Russian. Давайте перейдем на русский, и давайте перейдем к вопросам, которые у меня есть к господину Вуди Аллену. Итак, первый вопрос. Кино как зеркало времени. Как художник отражает эпоху через комедию, драму, абсурд или молчание?
I have never been someone who was a thinker. I just make the films to try and entertain people, to try and give people a nice experience for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And so I just make them without any kind of intellectual motivation behind them. I make them because I do what I think is funny, I do what I think will be entertaining. And as a matter of fact, I've been a very apolitical filmmaker. I've never made a political film. I've always made personal films. And it's just been good luck for me that they've resonated in the United States and all over the world in a way that's meaningful to other people.
Спасибо за этот ответ. Перейдем к второму вопросу. От камеры к камере, переход режиссера в продюсирование. Что значит быть продюсером, когда ты сам режиссер?
Well, I, of course, have never produced a film. To me, the producer is someone strictly in the United States in the business aspect. The producer raises the money and puts the project together. I've had a different situation because I would write the film and direct the film and very often appear in the film. And so I didn't really need a producer in the sense that the term is usually used. Usually a producer in the United States finds a script or a book and gets together with a director and has lunch with a lot of movie stars and tries to bring it all together. I had it all together immediately. So for me it was very simple. I've never had to work with a producer, so to speak. The producers on my film, in a certain sense, were working for me. So I've always had very good, cordial relationships with very nice people who understood what I was trying to do and were very sympathetic to it and very helpful to me.
Спасибо. Третий вопрос. Актер внутри режиссера. Как опыт игры в кадре меняет взгляд на режиссуру?
It doesn't really change it because, you know, acting and directing is not rocket science. It's just common sense. You write a script, you know what you want to see on the screen, and then when you act in it, you direct the actors, or if you're acting yourself, you make sure that they don't do anything on the screen that they wouldn't do in real life. It's just simple common sense for them to perform in a realistic, non-histrionic way. The biggest problem one has as a director is to tell actors not to act, to just quietly be real, be who they are. And that's what I did when I acted. I just spoke as I speak in real life, and I didn't suddenly become an actor. I never took an acting lesson. I just spoke as I spoke, and I direct all the actors to just speak as they speak. In fact, in my films, I very often tell the actors if they feel comfortable, they can disregard the script as long as they understand the objective of the scene, what we're going for, and they can put it in their own words. If the scene is about a man who's going to quit his job and has to walk in and quit his job, I say to them, you don't have to use my words. Just walk into the office as if you work there and quit your job. And whatever your employer says to you, you know, answer what you would answer in real life. Just do it as you would do it. And this is, I think, the art of acting in motion pictures is really non-acting, to just be real and use your common sense.
Но сразу же у меня еще один вопрос вот на эту тему. Много ли в фильмах Вуди Аллена импровизации, именно актерской импровизации? Вы отчасти ответили на этот вопрос, но хотелось бы еще услышать ответ.
Yes, I encourage them to improvise, and you would think that when they come in and I say, you can improvise this, you can put this in your own words, you don't have to go by what I wrote. They say, oh, thank you so much, you know, it frees me, it's great, I love this and everything. But when the time comes to film the scene, they immediately start saying the words that I wrote. And I have to remind them that they're not trapped into that, they don't have to do that. But many of them are reluctant to improvise. They say they want to improvise. They say it's a big gift to them as actors and that it frees them. But in actuality, when the time comes, they get right back into the script. Now, not all of them, but most of them go to the script. I encourage them always to improvise because I always feel it will seem more natural if they're speaking not words off a script that they've memorized, but words that are spontaneously occurring to them. And I do the best I can with that, getting that from them. And so I do think the films that I've done have been well acted. If a film doesn't work, it's not because the actors are bad. It's because, and usually it's not because the direction's bad. The direction is not that difficult. It's usually because the script doesn't work. I would say 90% of films, and certainly 100% of my films, if they fail because I've written a poor script or I've made a mistake in the script that I didn't realize at the time. But the success or failure of a film is not so much in the acting and rarely in the directing. Many fine directors around and wonderful actors and actresses. It's usually that the writer, which is the toughest aspect of the film, the toughest factor in making a film is writing it. It's because the writing had a problem. And everybody else does a very good job. The actors are wonderful, the camera work's wonderful, the direction, the costumes, but for some reason it doesn't work. And this is because the script was doomed from the start and nobody really understood that. Nobody could see it on the written page or even thought it read beautifully. But when it was actually put on its feet and made live, we didn't realize that it had flaws in it, and that's why it failed. So I was telling you this only because it's not the acting or the direction or the camera work that usually dooms a film. It's usually the writing.
Все-таки вы можете вспомнить конкретных актеров, которые импровизация которых на площадке вам понравилась, и эти сцены были включены в ваш фильм?
Sure, I'm one of them. I can write a scene at home, and I write it, and in my bedroom, and I write it, and then when I have to go and do it someplace, it's a completely different mental exercise. I think to myself, my God, what was I thinking when I wrote this in my bedroom? And I change it completely and improvise it at the time. And I've done this with Diane Keaton very much. I've done it with Tony Roberts. I've done it with Scarlett Johansson, with Judy Davis, a wonderful Australian actress, with Diane Wiest, an American actress who I've encouraged to improvise, and all the prominent people in my films over the years I've improvised with and have encouraged to improvise, and they have improvised. But most of the actors in the large cast have a tendency not to. They become timid and feel more comfortable, no matter what they profess, in going with the script.
Вуди, а скажите, вы когда-нибудь в жизни снимали кино не по своему сценарию?
No, I've never filmed anyone else's screenplay. I only film them because I want them to be done properly. I mean, I didn't enter as a director. I entered as a writer, and I saw when I first started, I wrote a script, and it was made into a movie, and a very successful movie. But I was ashamed of it. I thought it was terrible, and they had done a terrible job with my script, and I didn't care how successful it was. I just didn't like the movie, and I vowed that I would never do another movie unless I could be the director. So I directed them only to get the script the way I want it. So I've never had any interest in directing anyone else's script. I just wouldn't be interested in that. And I've rarely been in anyone else's movie. That's not because I didn't want to, but over the years, very few people have come to me, almost none, have come to me and offered me roles in their movies, despite my acting in my own movies. They have not been tempted to offer me roles in other movies. So I've done almost no other movies than my own, and certainly never directed any.
Ну, вы отчасти уже ответили на мой вопрос. Я хотел спросить у вас, студии или продюсеры обращались ли к вам за вашими сценариями для других режиссеров, но вы уже ответили на этот вопрос. Скажите, Вуди, а у вас много сценариев лежат, как у нас говорят, в столе, те не реализованы?
I don't have a lot. Excuse me. I don't have a lot. I have a couple of scripts unrealized in my drawer, and usually I don't participate in something until I know what and where it's going to be. For example, if an American company says, we will finance your film, that enables me to do certain kinds of stories. But if I'm called from Russia or from France or Spain, and they say, we will finance your film, but you have to make it in Moscow, or you have to make it in Barcelona, I then have to write a script that is correct for that city, not just any script that could be anywhere, and we stick it in Barcelona, we stick it in Paris. It has to be indigenous to that city, where it could not be done somewhere else. And so I usually wait before I write a script until I'm contacted and we make a deal and the money is in the bank and I know there's going to be a movie made. Then I sit down and write a script for Rome, and then when I'm finished, it immediately goes into production. The money's in the bank, and I usually operate on what I have called the brown paper bag symptom. I like the producer or the backers to put the money in a brown paper bag, and we put it in the bank, and then they don't bother me, and I give them a movie 6 months later, or 7 months later, or 5 months, whatever. You know, I don't let anybody read my scripts. I don't let anybody make suggestions. I don't conference with people or talk with them. I make the film by myself, and I've made 50 films, and not all of them have made money. But if you had bet on me for all 50, if you invested in all 50, you would have made a lot of money over the years. Most of them have done nicely, and some of them have done very nicely. So it's not a risky investment for someone. And even if I make a disaster and nobody comes to see it, every film makes a certain amount of money, so they don't lose their whole brown paper bag of money. And I can't work any other way. I can't work with a lot of lunch meetings and conferences and, they give me the money, I make the film I want to make, and you've seen 50 films of mine, you know what I do, and you have to, you're buying me, you're not buying a script that you approve, you're buying me and you're taking a chance that I'm going to come through for you, and I try my best.
Вот вы вспомнили про Россию и звонок из России. Где-то лет 10 тому назад ходила новость, что вы рассматриваете возможность снять картину в России. Это правда или нет? И если правда, то на какой стадии находится этот проект? И вообще не отказались ли вы от этой идеи?
That was never true. There was never any substance to that rumor. No Russian company ever spoke with me or my business people. There was no substantive talks. It just wasn't the case. I have no reason not to go to Russia. I've been to St. Petersburg. I've been to Moscow. I had a very nice time. I've been there 3 times. I was there years ago. I went to St. Petersburg, and this was when it was the Soviet Union, and it was not a nice experience. It was grim. It was difficult. It was nothing worked. It was very unpleasant. We were going to stay there for 5 days. We left in 1 day, and it was very unpleasant. And then it changed. It became wonderful. The next time I went to St. Petersburg, it was delightful. We went to the ballet, everything worked, it was lively, the people were cheerful, it was a great experience. And we stayed there for a few days, we played jazz there, it was great. And then we went to Moscow, we went to the museums, we had a wonderful time. So, I have only good feelings about Moscow and St. Petersburg, but there has never been any substantive talks about doing a film there. And if there had been, or if there has been, I would have to sit down and then think to myself, what would be a script that would be indigenous and feel good in Moscow or in St. Petersburg?
Спасибо за этот ответ, все понятно. Следующий вопрос мой. Кино без границ. Может ли копродукция сохранить культурную идентичность?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, co-productions are done all the time, and wonderful films are made with co-productions. As long as the co-production, and this is true even of a production that's not a co-production, even if it comes from one source, if there's no interference with the artist's work, if the people who put the money up, if the people who are in charge of the business aspects of the film don't interfere with the artist, whether it's a production that's a regular production, one source, or a co-production, there's no problem at all. People co-produce with France, with Spain, for all I know with Russia, and the films that come out, dependent on the gift of the director and the writer, are wonderful.
Скажите, Вуди, а у вас был негативный опыт общения со студией, со студийными боссами или с вашими продюсерами, когда вам диктовали те или иные условия по длине картины или по тем эпизодам, которые можно как-то могли включать в себя изменения в монтаже? Был ли у вас такой опыт?
I've been very lucky for a few reasons. I told you I made this first film that was very successful. I wasn't the director, I was the writer. And I said that I would never do another film, never write another film unless I could be the director. And so I was the director of the first film that I wrote, Take the Money and Run, a very broad comedy. And I was I was acting in it, I was the writer, I was the director, and for some reason, if you're making comedies, I know in Hollywood, there was a mystique about you. The business people thought they could tell the men making dramatic films what to do and what to change. But the people who did comedy, they felt, oh, they're funny, they leave them alone. They know what they're doing, they're comic. And so they left me alone. And I had complete control of my first film. And then it was successful, and so was my second film. Nobody told me anything at all. And then by my fourth film, I had it in my contract that I had complete control legally. I had final cut, I had control over everything, the advertising, and I've never made a film after that I didn't have complete control over. So if one of my films or many of my films are bad, I'm the only person to blame. I can't blame interference, I can't blame the actors, I can't blame the producers, the studios, nobody. Nobody interferes with me. If something goes wrong and the film is terrible, you have to blame me.
Вы, наверное, самый счастливый режиссер на планете Земля. Авторское высказывание в эпоху стриминга. Есть ли шанс у уникального взгляда, в первую очередь имеется в виду авторское кино, в мире алгоритмов в сегодняшнее время?
It stands a chance, but it's not looking wonderful because the financial advantages and the convenience advantages of streaming are enormous compared to going to the movies in the old-fashioned way. I, of course, grew up the old-fashioned way, so I love going to the movies and seeing film, seeing it in celluloid and seeing it, but you can't get by with that anymore. Many movie houses in New York, most have closed, and people like to stream. I tried once to make a film for television, a 5-part film for television, but I didn't like doing it. It didn't come out very, very interestingly from my point of view, and I didn't want to do it again. I didn't like it. I don't like streaming. I don't like that whole change. I liked it better when you made a film and it opened all over the country, all over the world, and people came and stood in line at the cinema, and they were there with hundreds of people next to them, not home in their living room or in their bedroom. I just can't get used to that. So I'm lucky because I'm much older now, and I had a very good time making films when they were presented to the public in a very romantic way.
Не могу не спросить про новые технологии. Вы наверняка слышали, видели, что за последний год технологии продвинулись невероятно глубоко в нашу культуру, и в том числе в киноиндустрию. Может быть, банальный вопрос, но вы верите в то, что ИИ может заменить актера, сценариста, редактора, режиссера по монтажу?
I'm very skeptical about that. I don't want to undersell it, but I'm very skeptical. I think that there's always going to be, it's always dependent on being fed material that human beings give it. And it's hard to imagine that I guess if you make thousands of films with a robot, with artificial intelligence, maybe one or two or some would come out okay, but I don't think you ever will have the soul of an artist behind it. I think I just am skeptical about it, not because I'm against it in principle, but I just don't think that's ever going to be possible. You will always need a human touch to it to really get, the emotional connection that you get from a great work of art. And I do think, it'll be a help, writing business things. It will be a help in business, writing business letters, and maybe in schools, writing curriculums. But I don't think that it will ever come up with something like Tennessee Williams can, or Eugene O'Neill, or Dostoevsky, I just don't think it's going to do that, because part of what they're doing also includes their weaknesses and their mistakes. And I don't think the machine will make any mistakes. It will be, in a certain sense, lifeless.
Я, готовясь к нашей встрече, дал задание чат-боту написать одну сцену на двух артистов в стиле Вуди Аллена. Это получилась такая часть билиберда, но пару шуток мне там понравилось, и меня это страшно испугало.
Yes, well, but the artificial intelligence has to be fed with scripts, let's say, that I wrote originally. If I didn't write them, the artificial intelligence would not be able to write them. The artificial intelligence did not grow up for years and years and years in my family, with my father, my mother, my sister, my friends. You can feed that information in and it will process it. But the nuance and the detail of my life, as I feel it, and the smallness of it, it has to be fed in by the artist. And so the machine can only go as far as the artist can help it.
Вуди, у нас здесь передо мной находится фантастический зал, фантастическая аудитория из студентов. Я надеюсь, что здесь много кинематографистов. Я не могу не дать возможность задать, может быть, у нас остается там 13 минут, не задать 3, но, может быть, у нас получится 5 вопросов из зала. Кто? У нас есть, пожалуйста.
Okay.
Я могу повторить, если у нас есть микрофон, или я могу повторить? Тогда идите сюда, вот сюда задайте.
Одну секунду, микрофон.
Сейчас
дадим?
вот уже бежит
Микрофон дадим?
Спасибо.
Покажитесь. На балконе?
Спасибо. Ну, передайте, пожалуйста, и там на английском как раз прекрасная девушка спросит.
Вы спуститесь? Да, давайте, Федор Сергеевич, подождем, сейчас спустится человек вниз и...
Give us 1 minute, Woody.
Yeah, hello, I'll speak English. Hello, Woody. Nice to meet you. I'm Mariam. I'm actress and producer. And also, I have with me your book, Side Effects, which is actually from 1975 year. You remember your book, which you wrote? That's a while ago. Yeah,
I remember the book.
Yes.
I remember the book.
And so there is like some short, nice stories, and that's my question. So, for example, Steven Spielberg gave an option to do for $1 equalization. So we have here like lots of students. So we can say here, I think, a few thousand people, and they are very often, as you mentioned earlier today, it's very hard to find script, right? So here is my question. If possibly you could allow some Russian student to make some short film, and if you could give the rights for equalization of that.
Would I want to make sure I have the question right. You're saying, would I allow Russian students to make a film from something I wrote?
Yes, short stories,
short
films.
Yes, I'm very open to that kind of thing. If it's a worthwhile, legitimate request by Russian students, and they want to make a student film or a student project out of something that I wrote, I would probably have no objection to that. I allow that very frequently.
Это потрясающе.
Давайте быстро, пожалуйста, давайте, пожалуйста.
One more question, please.
По-русски, по-английски.
По-русски вас переведут.
Здравствуйте, большая честь говорить с вами. 15 лет назад я спросил вас,
Thank you.
что what I need to do to become a successful film director. You told me that you're asking the wrong guy. Сегодня, если можно, я перефразирую этот вопрос. Если человек хочет прийти в режиссуру, что бы вы ему посоветовали, учитывая, что он начинает все с нуля?
My advice is that there is no single journey that can do that. That every director I know has come from different sources. It's very disorganized. Some come from editing, some come from writing, some come from advertising business, some have never directed before, some come from the stage. The only advice that I can give is that one must feel it themselves. They have to see a lot of movies, they have to love movies, and over the years, like the playing jazz music or something, you, without studying it, you get a feel for it in you without ever making it into homework or schoolwork. It becomes a feeling that you have, you just feel it, and then everything is different. You have to, hang around with actors and push the director here and see if you can raise money for a student film and see if some movie will let you be a third assistant and somebody else, or write a script, and if they do the script, maybe ask if you could direct the second one you write. But there is no set way. You've got to manipulate your way any way possible into it. But the important thing is to have a feel for directing. It's not something you can learn in a classroom by studying films. You may never study a film, but if you go to the movies a lot, I used to stay away from school and go into the movies a lot when I was young. And I hung around in movies and watched them and loved them, and I got a feel for it, and then manipulated my way. I was a cabaret comedian, and I wrote a script, and they did the script, and they let me do this, and but there is no set way to do this.
Thank you very much. Передайте, пожалуйста, молодому человеку. Да.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Allen. My name is Gleb. I'm a student of a technical university, and I want to ask you a question. It's no secret that technological progress is keep going very fast, especially in the film industry. For example, Avatar by James Cameron. It was a huge I can say in Russian a little bit, скачок вперед. Yeah. In this case, I want to ask you a question. How will filmmakers, film industry impress us, the audience, in the future? Thank you very much.
Technique, the way of making films, and technology and filming technique is far removed from being a film artist. Someone like Buñuel was very crude with the films he made, but he's a great film artist. It's what you have to say and the talent that you have. If a great talented director uses technology to make a film, if that film is a great work of art or a great piece of work, that's fine. if an average director uses the technology, it just becomes technology, and the final product is just boring or empty, but it doesn't matter what technology they use. It all depends on the imagination and the inspiration of the filmmaker. So someone making a film using the simplest old-fashioned method, if what they're saying is full of feeling and inspiration, everyone will want to see it and will be moved by it. And the person who's working with the most advanced technology will mean nothing unless that technology, which is only a tool, is in the employment of an inspired concept.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen, for your answer. Вижу одного студента, которого знаю, Makar. Будешь задавать вопрос? Давай быстрее только.
Good afternoon, Woody Allen. Would you like to work with Russian actors? And what Russian actors do you know?
Can you ask that? I can't hear that.
Каких российских актеров вы знаете? Знаете ли русскую школу актерского мастерства? И с какими актерами хотели бы поработать?
I don't know that. We don't get a healthy European or foreign cinema in the United States. There was in the 1950s, in the 60s, we got a healthy dose of European and international filmmakers, and then we got to see them. But now we don't get that. All those artistic cinemas have closed in New York, and so I don't get to see Russian films. I don't get to see, Japanese films or Argentine films. Very rarely. I mean, one will come along, and then 6 months later something else. But so I don't really know the international film market because I'm just not aware of it. It doesn't have a healthy presentation in the United States, and this is a tragic thing because the greatest films being made at that time were being made in foreign studios. The most innovative and inspirational work was being done abroad, and we got it in the United States, and it was a big influence on my generation of filmmakers, but that does not exist anymore.
Но от себя я не могу не задать вам вопрос. Как вы относитесь к нашим великим школам, школе Станиславского или к школе Чехова? Актерским школам, актерского мастерства.
Well, Chekhov to all of us is a god. I mean, whether you're in the theater or you're a writer of short stories or Chekhov is Chekhov. He's one of the absolute greats, and so everybody knows Chekhov automatically. And in the cinema, of course, everybody does know Eisenstein and Pudovkin and the Russians who helped form the whole vocabulary of cinematic filmmaking. But now, as I say, we don't get that. We're just as the Russian writers, Tolstoy and Dostoevsky and Gogol and Turgenev. These people are part of the cultural landscape of the world, and so we absorb them and love them. But we don't have a good current international traffic with Europe as we did have.
Thank you very much. The last question, please. Guys.
Девушка в красном, да? Пожалуйста.
Hello, Mr. Allen. My name is Nancy, and I'm a cinema journalist. And my question is, what film has impressed you the most recently? Maybe you've seen something in the cinema and think, wow, that's a good job.
Well, over the years, of course, I was impressed with certain great films. I was impressed with the films of Ingmar Bergman. I was impressed with The Seventh Seal. I was impressed with the Bicycle Thief. I was impressed with Rashomon, the Kurosawa film. These films are all, great works of art, but you don't have that now. But there was a time when these films were coming out once a week. You would get a Fellini film or a De Sica film or Truffaut or Godard, and many of these films were terrific films, and some of them were great works of art, like The Bicycle Thief or 8½, or Wild Strawberries, and so these were films that were very impressive and very influential, as I say, on my generation of filmmakers. But the younger generation of filmmakers do not have that. They're impressed more with the technological films, with the comic book films, with a more popular but less substantial filmography.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your... It was the last question.
Mr. Alan, thank you so much for this conversation. It was a true honor to speak with you, not only as a filmmaker, but as one of the many people in Russia whose life was touched by your films. We grew up with them, we loved, we thought, we learned. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Спасибо огромное. Вот такая вот классная встреча. Федор Сергеевич, вам огромное
Это
спасибо.
мои слова. Дорогие, спасибо вам за эту прекрасную встречу, за тепло зала и за тишину зала. Встретимся в следующий раз. Спасибо вам.
Я позволил вас процитировать, Федор Сергеевич.